I mean, it could be Russia, but it could also be China. It could also be lots of other people. It also could be somebody sitting on their bed that weighs 400 pounds, okay? Maybe there is no hacking. But they always blame Russia. And the reason they blame Russia is because they think they're trying to tarnish me with Russia. I know nothing about Russia. They have no idea if it's Russia or China or somebody. It could be somebody sitting in a bed someplace. I mean, they have no idea. As far as hacking, I think it was Russia, but I think we also get hacked by other countries and other people. Knowing something about hacking, if you don't catch a hacker, okay, in the act, it's very hard to say who did the hacking. Well, I think it was Russia, and I think it could have been other people in other countries. Could have been a lot of people interfered. I believe that President Putin really feels, and he feels strongly, that he did not meddle in our election. What I said there is that I believe he believes that, and that's very important for somebody to believe. So I have great confidence in my intelligence people, but I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today. Let me be totally clear in saying that, and I've said this many times, I accept our intelligence community's conclusion that Russia's meddling in the 2016 election took place. Could be other people also. There's a lot of people out there.
You're listening to TMI for the week of July 23rd, 2018.
So I wonder if a good subtitle for this week's show, TMI, the Mueller investigation.
Mm-hmm.
If there was an outbreak of some type of insect, then maybe next week's episode would be Too Many Insects.
Oh, I see there's a trend here happening. Yes. Gotcha.
It seems to me of all the things I can think of, that would be the first thing to go under automation, would be banking jobs, you would have thought.
Yep. We don't have money, then, I guess really what's left are what, the only reason you'd need people at a bank is legal documents for mortgages and investing.
And fighting the man.
Oh, well, yeah. I still...
who are you going to talk to when you're trying to fight the man?
Yeah, well, I still go to the bank. I don't use... Well, obviously I don't use internet banking anymore, but, no. No, I like talking to people. I like meeting people. Hey, how's it going,
I've never liked bank tellers, but whatever.
Oh, no way? I met some really good ones.
I remember a couple, one time, the guy saying, "And don't call me Guy."
Oh! No way.
Oh yeah.
I had one guy. Well, it wasn't at a bank, but at Loblaws, and I'm like, "Hey, big guy." He wasn't large, fat, or anything like that. And he just looked at me and goes, "Don't ever call me big guy again." I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry." It's a term of endearment I use with friends and people I like, and I've seen you here for a couple of years now. It's always nice to see you. I was fat as a kid. Don't ever call me big guy again. Oh, whoa. Okay, sorry.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. I was trying to think how could he be offended, but
no, he was
unless
a fat kid, I guess. Yeah.
Unless he had pelvic shrinkage surgery.
Well, I don't know. I mean, but the
guy
was definitely, he was like...
In his late teens, his oversized. I don't think it could, well...
I was like, okay, man, I'll just do the standard hello, and the dead stare, thank you, goodbye. Oh, when is self-automation coming in so I can just bag my own?
I noticed a tweet this week
okay.
at rmasher2.
Okay.
So I guess there's already an rmasher. Must be rmasher2.
Mm-hmm.
So, steal his tweet. Sarah Huckster Sanders, paraphrased.
Okay. This is a Russian
I
bot,
didn't
or is this
realize.
a real person?
What do you mean?
Well, you
But
never know.
I just noticed that it's not Sarah Huckabee, it's Sarah Huckster Sanders.
Uh-huh.
I didn't notice that. Okay, this is full of jewels. Paraphrased, the big colon after it. Carriage return. The president says words. It doesn't matter what those words mean. The president's words mean whatever he wants them to mean until he wants them to have some other meaning. Period. Next.
Uh-huh.
I'm surprised that's not a direct quote.
Well, I mean, that's...
Paraphrased, apparently.
Yeah. You know. That's when you know you're in trouble. Well, when they say that the media is the enemy and that people who disagree with you are your enemy. I mean, you've just divided your country, your society, or whatever. So, I mean, I don't know why alarm bells didn't go off then, whether you're right or left. So, I mean, whatever ends up happening, they will be there to pick through the ashes afterwards.
Doubt that.
But I mean, that's same thing can happen in Canada. I mean, Canada is a house divided now too. I mean, it's never been more divided than within the last 18 years.
Yeah, that's just since the crazy conservative pundits took their focus off Wynne and now have turned it to Trudeau.
No. It all started in April 2006 when the Conservatives took over after the Liberal Party imploded.
How it's appeared to me in social media is that it's been almost perfect with 3 bumps honeymoon with Trudeau up until the moment that Doug Ford got elected.
Trudeau will get a minority. It's just my gut feeling. Andrew Scheer, unless he pulls a miracle out of his hat, or unless things get so bad and the country becomes more polarized, which it could if Jason Kenney wins next year in Alberta. But the country is swinging hard right, and
I hear
I
you.
don't see the NDP gaining any traction. Maybe in the 416-905 in a couple of areas in British Columbia.
When is the next election?
October 2019. Next year. 13 months, 14 months from now,
Well,
15 months from now.
I hear your words, but because I don't see anything he's done that's outside of what he campaigned on, and that it's been business as usual, and every time he speaks to the world, largely, he makes sense and is putting forth the values and interests of Canada abroad. So, and looks good doing it. So I just don't see anything wrong.
Well, he's not going to get Alberta again. He's not going to get BC again, right? That's either going to the Greens or the NDP. So, I mean, even though the media is saying that, poll numbers are suggesting that, there's support for the pipeline and another LNG project in northern British Columbia. But, if you see...
Who is the conservative? Like, these people are invisible right now, I guess, due to the constant golden glow from the United States.
The conservative is the person out of the urban centers. That is the conservative, and I learned that the hard way in 2006. That's when I lost my job.
Hang on.
It was because of the.
Who is the conservative candidate?
Who? Andrew Scheer. He's the leader of the Federal Progressive Conservative, or the Federal Conservative Party.
Well, he's largely invisible, yes.
No.
What
No, he's out and about.
If he was saying anything Doug Fordish, I'm pretty sure it would have been all over social media. No?
Well, all those people who are in the Harper government are all down at Queen's Park now. So anything that Andrew Scheer does, aside from his own, machination, if you will, I mean, he's been controlled by the people down at Queen's Park, for lack of a better description.
Doug eventually is going to try to become prime minister, right?
Well, I mean, he hasn't even been 2 months in power, so I mean, we haven't even got the audit in, and that's August 31st. So expect the first or second week of September, if the legislature is sitting, for them to reveal what's going on. So by the end of September, we'll have an idea of where the cuts are.
Yeah.
If Doug Ford implements those cuts that I suspect he is going to do in healthcare, education, and social services, watch the bottom drop out when all of a sudden Toronto is faced with more homeless than it can handle right now. So, and all these other urban centers. So, I mean, I won't predict where Doug Ford's numbers are going or whether he's going to run for prime minister. I say that Trudeau's going to get a minority government depending on what happens down south and with all these other right-wing governments around the world. A Hail Mary on Andrew Scheer's part, if they can just separate themselves from the Harper hangover legacy, there might be a minority conservative government. But that's, with really good stick handling. Like I said, Alberta is clinched, but they don't have a lot of seats. Saskatchewan, I would say that they would get, with the exception of, say, downtown Winnipeg. I mean, the way the Liberals have handled Churchill, Manitoba, and that whole rail line debacle, and, if there's any support that the Liberals had in Manitoba, with the exception of Winnipeg, Brandon, I don't even think, would go all conservative. Maybe northern areas of British Columbia would be conservative. Yukon and the Northwest Territories, they still have done fuck all. So I think the Conservatives can get themselves back in there. The East Coast is all Liberal right now. It's going to be what have you done for me lately out there with respect to the LNG and all that stuff off the coast. So that's up for grabs. Liberals in Quebec. The Conservatives have actually been doing pretty well in Quebec. They won the last by-election there. So I see Scheer giving Trudeau a run for his money. Now Trudeau, if they keep on pushing the fuck-ups that Trudeau has done so far, I can see the Conservatives definitely mounting a minority.
Well, he had dinner with the wrong guy, and
twice. Terrorist twice. I mean, really.
Same guy, so it's only one.
That's amateur hour, man. If I'd been running his office, that would have not have happened.
Well,
that would not have happened. That whole bullshit thing that he did.
Minor.
If I'd been running his office, that would not have happened, man.
If that's the biggest scandal, I don't think it's going to make.
Well, no, it's not the biggest scandal. Yeah.
Well, what would the biggest scandal be?
Oh, Jesus! What would be the biggest
Yeah,
scandal?
you can't name one.
No, I'm just trying to think how.
Let's
see. Well, the LNG,
let me ask,
he didn't need to buy.
He likes his pipelines, and he dumped
yeah.
sewage into the St. Lawrence in the first week he was in office. So he's not exactly as green as we might hope. But
no,
Canada,
buying that pipeline didn't help. He shouldn't have. Why did he buy a private company's pipeline? $4.5 billion. Jesus Christ. That's a private company down in Texas. You just gave the shareholders, a beautiful kiss. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's on our backs. Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So
if
the NATO, hey, look, I don't have an opinion of the pipeline either way.
As much as I hate all that stuff, the reality is that Canada's always been an exporter of dirty commodities that we're all using.
Whether it be asbestos, whether it be whatever. Yeah, no.
We're all using. Yeah. And that is business in Canada. And, I mean, obviously there are cleaner alternatives and it's decimation of the environment and stuff. But the fact that he says yes to a couple industrial processes in our country shouldn't come as a huge surprise. And if you think a conservative government wouldn't be all on that like a fat kid on a Smartie. I'm not faulting it.
And look, I've been,
under the Harper government, they bulldozed an entire province. So a pipeline. And it's a problem. Like, you don't drive, but you might take the bus, and they're burning fossil fuels on the bus.
I've never said that I'm not against the pipeline. I've been against. I'm the only person that I know, because everybody that I've spoken to, whether it be out west or within my circle, are all against the pipeline. And I've always argued in favor of the pipeline. It's safer. There's only 2 roads in and 2 roads out to get to eastern Canada. the same thing with the rail lines. There's not a lot of rail lines going between Vancouver and Calgary, okay, or up to Edmonton or up to the Fort Mac. Jesus, you got one avalanche. I mean, look at last winter, 2 winters ago. Trans-Canada Highway was shut down. The rail lines were shut down because of avalanches. At least with the pipeline, you're going to get your stuff to market. It's safer.
Anyway,
you have
dubious
system.
waters.
No.
Defending fossil fuels, but
No. It's much safer than a bloody 100 car, 200 car train snaking its way up through, the corkscrew spinning, whatever that crow's nest passed, and then having to go through mountains and with moose and deer and whatever bears on the track and all this other stuff, and then avalanches. I mean, really, honestly, if you haven't been through mountains, you should take a run out through the Rockies and, look up at the cliff and pray to God when you're looking up the cliff that there's not a cloud of rock dust as an avalanche comes to sweep you off the tracks, down to your death, with 200 other people on the train.
Right. Well, it goes through waterways and.
Yeah. So what?
All that stuff.
So what, man?
Oh,
they've been
no.
they've been doing pipelines now for what? Since the 1920s.
Yeah, I got to cut all this.
I mean, the Romans invented pipelines over 2,000 years ago to transport water.
Right, they were made of lead, and that's why they're all short. Can we get off this and onto something I can fucking publish?
I mean, if you want to debate,
I don't.
Classic Dave Archer. There you go, folks.
We're doing a show here. We gotta.
Yeah, I know we're doing a show. It's just you can't even finish a fucking debate, man. You got.
It's not a debate show.
Whatever. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no. Well, how much we can use. Oh, some of our audience is very much against fossil fuels and very much against pipelines.
Yeah, start walking across Canada, man. If you're against fossil fuels, and stop being hypocrites. Stop. If you live in the countryside, walk into work. If you want to travel overseas, start swimming.
6 different recycling bins.
That's congratulations.
Public transit, and
that's great. Yeah, you're talking about people who live in an urban center. You're not talking about the rest of Canada. The majority of Canadians,
the majority of Canadians live in cities.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, there you go. But I'm saying, start walking. If you live in Etobicoke and you work downtown and you're one of these people, then start walking.
All of them do. The ones
because you're on a subway or a bus that requires, all sorts of dirty rubber that needs to be processed and plastic.
So I'm pandering to my audience. That's what you're accusing me of?
I'm not accusing anybody of anything. Just stop being hypocrites.
Some kind of self-censorship that I've imposed.
No.
I've sold out to the...
You're a middle-aged white man. Everything you say is self-censored now because it's all our fault. So, fuck. I mean, even though we weren't there, name your atrocity. Even though we weren't there and we were standing up against the fascists and the communists and the corporate elite, it's all our fault. So,
while we're on the subject of pandering to the audience, you've said the F word.
I love that word. I really love that word.
Should I beep you out?
No,
Comedy
that's censorship,
Central?
man.
Beep you out?
No, that's censorship.
No.
Don't censor me. That word has so many. I mean, it's base. I agree, but it resonates because it either resonates something passion. Well, not something. It resonates passion.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're expressing your pleasure with, say, a good gelato on a hot day when it's 40 degrees Celsius.
Weren't you at some point worried about sounding like a crazy, angry?
But I'm not a crazy, angry guy. Okay. I laugh at things now. I mean, it's like all you can do is laugh.
All right, that's
keep
sabbatical.
Calm and carry on.
Your multi-episode co-host sabbatical has worked wonders.
Yeah, no, I think everything that's happened in the last year has. Not the last year, but close to the last since September, October. I think it's really, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And I really don't. I was thinking about it yesterday or today when I was walking through the market this morning when I was picking up stuff at the farmer's market. And, I love talking with the people in the markets and people that I've established an acquaintanceship with and everything like that. And I love the feeling of that general
Every time I do
that
at the gas station.
Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't matter where
I run
it is.
into crazy, taxi drivers
Yeah,
who
wow.
seem friendly enough in the lineup, and then next thing you know, I'm hearing all about how Trump's going to fix everything and make
Yeah,
it all
well,
great
I
again.
guess that's not the people that
I don't
sense.
attract the right. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's I guess the energy. I guess Cindy kept on trying to tell me this a long time ago. It's the energy that you project,
Okay.
right? So I'd much rather be the King of Kensington kind of guy than the kind of guy that projects this angry, mad, middle-aged white man thing. I don't want to be that. I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to have the blood pressure that reflects that. I'm not kumbaya, but I'm also a realist.
I noticed
You
in the
know?
news the Brady house is on sale for 1.8 million.
Yeah, they bought it for what, 43,000 or something like that initially, back in the early
That's
70s. Yeah,
big bucks though
yeah,
in the early 70s.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm noticing in the real estate section in the Star that a couple of houses up in Willowdale, like the old 1960s ranch-style houses, are now going over $2 million. So it's obviously the property because the property's so big, but I nearly fell out of my socks when I saw that last weekend. I'm like, oh, I got to show this to Mom. So,
Is Donald Trump a chaos agent?
yeah.
I watched the Get Smart movie recently. I'm obviously not happy with it, but
Yeah.
but I think I'm ready to rewatch Get Smart episodes, original ones.
The front of the business section in today's Star: Canada should join other countries in banning asbestos. Shameful legacy doesn't need Donald Trump's seal of approval. So there's a picture here. It's right middle fold, and there's a company in the Russia, called Ural's Best, stamped Donald Trump's face on its asbestos shipment. Trump has called asbestos a miracle mineral. So President Donald Trump, it says here, U.S. President Donald Trump, whose inert stance on the miracle mineral, which is in quotes, was recently unearthed by Newsweek with this marquee quote, I believe that the movement against asbestos was led by the mob, end quote. So there you go. So he approves of asbestos, and he calls it a miracle product. So, or miracle mineral, sorry. So,
President Trump, you don't have to try to be blonde.
No, and the seal of approval on the shipment on the skids, it says here it's the pallets. There's a stamp on the pallets with the selling line, approved by Donald Trump, 45th President of the United States, end quote.
Are you concerned that galvanized baby condos has been removed from the news by other issues?
Galvanized baby condos. Well, I don't think that's really... Has it fallen out of the news cycle? Well, not by those who really care about it. Unlike Melania Trump, I really don't care. Do you? No.
Okay. Is she a battered woman or
No.
worse than him?
No, she's an apologist for him. I think, there's another thing here. I mean, what was it? In 2006, Donald Trump was meeting his lawyer, Cohen, and they were talking about paying off his the women that he was with, right? So, I mean, this is 2006. She had just given birth to their son. Okay, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's all about money.
Dong, though.
It's all about money. I mean, she sticks it out with him. Okay, if I was her advisor,
Yeah.
I'd be like, stick it out with him for as long as he's president, and then you get a book deal, you get a book tour deal, and you can make more money off of this. And
Well, he's probably not worth very much right now.
Well, no, I mean, but this whole thing, I mean, she would. I'm assuming right now, and it would be part of the spin that I'd have for her, a pillow talk is pillow talk, and Trump likes to talk on Twitter, et cetera, et cetera. So I can't imagine if he's trying to keep this person, his partner, from cutting his throat at night while the Secret Service is outside the bedroom door. I mean, he's going to have to placate her quite a bit. So I'm sure there's, I'm sure there's a lot of talk that goes on, and she must know what happened with Putin. I mean, she's probably got all the inside scoop on that, and I'm telling you, a book deal, after this guy kicks it, I mean, 71, 72 right now, so, and he's not healthy, he doesn't exercise, except for walking to the bathroom and to the helicopter.
We're going to list through a couple of recent issues, but when you try to list back through all the elements, so for example, doctors, and there's his crazy doctor who gave him a great, and then there's the other guy who certified him as a stable genius, and then there's the guy he promoted from being the White House doctor to the head of the
Surgeon General.
Okay, so just doctor, and it brings up 3, 4, 5, 6 elements.
Yeah, well, when Stalin has a gun to your head, you're going to say what Stalin wants you to say, and then recant. As soon as you've crossed the border into Hungary or to Austria. So, I mean, I think it's the same thing with Trump. I think he's got so many people who rabid supporters.
But let me say this: what if
stress cough?
What if? Seriously. I think the hidden story, the thing Trump doesn't want to come out, isn't urine videos and more, because he doesn't even care about this McDougal thing hitting the news again.
Right.
He was fighting Cohen in court.
Yeah.
That section of evidence had been deemed to have attorney-client status, and they could have fought it, and Trump, and this is actually something I still don't understand, but Trump said, oh, fine, use it, and now it's been accepted into evidence.
Yeah.
Even though we still don't know what's on the tape. But
no. Yeah.
But he doesn't care about affairs. I think he thinks that helps his brand. A womanizer. But
well, a certain segment of the population would buy into that tripe.
Yeah,
but,
well, they did. Grab the pussy.
Yeah.
So
hey, tell her to call me when she's 18.
That's not the
Girl
problem.
Scouts.
I think that the secret he doesn't want out would be abortion. He has paid for and silenced women who've had abortions because he does the raw dog. I mean, that's been with the Stormy Daniels. So, how much you want to bet? And you're like, oh, who cares? Another thing. He's like,
no.
water off a duck's back.
The Christian right would absolutely go nuclear.
Considering his appointment to the Supreme Court, having views on Roe versus Wade.
Oh God, yeah.
Considering, I don't know if you remember, but there was a debate between vice presidents.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's a nutbar Christian right-wing freak.
Well, he answered that he would let his own personal views, I'm talking about Mike Pence,
yeah,
affect public policy he would dictate out to the public. Anyway, I think that would be... So, what I'm suggesting is that's the kryptonite. A hidden secret story about Donald Trump having to do with abortion is the checkmate. That's my theory. So I'm just waiting for that.
It's plausible. I mean, there's a laundry list.
Oh, I'm
not
interested in the percentage chance that that's the thing. I'm just pointing out that if that was the thing, that would be checkmate.
I mean, yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean.
All right.
I mean, it's such a hot button topic in the United States. I mean, it really. I mean,
okay.
I mean, they don't care about locking up children in cages, but heaven forbid, some poor young girl gets raped. Well, no, you have to carry it to term. There, you should have kept your legs shut tight. Kind of mentality out of the Christian right.
One of the big stories, the timing of it. So for people who are afraid that Mueller is already reached the peak of his public announcements in this battle against the Bronze Dawn. Timing. So North Korea, that summit, whether you think it was a success and giving a world stage and acknowledging the North Korean government and all of the suspension of South Korean military exercises, etc., whatever you think of that. Then there's NATO. And leaving members of NATO essentially scratching their heads and wondering what new world order we've just entered into. Then there's NAFTA and the tariffs and this idea that he's going to have a specific trade agreement with Mexico, which again undermines the concept of NAFTA. So there's NAFTA. And then, a couple days before his visit, and this is all within essentially 2 or 3 weeks, or maybe a month, just before he's about to go to Helsinki, there's 12 indictments released. GRU, KGB-like officers. And then he goes and he has his conference.
Then there's a girl as well. You forgot about the
I'm getting there. I'm building a thing. He meets Putin. There's the Marina Butina charged while he's having the meetings. She's connected with the NRA and questionable campaign finance and deals with oligarchs, connections to Putin. And he comes back. He has this disastrous press conference where he appears to believe Putin more than his own intelligence community, all 17 organizations unanimous. And the punchline is that the day after, there's a New York Times story saying that 2 weeks before his inauguration, Trump had all the intelligence.
Yep, I have it right here in front of me.
On the 12 GRU officers.
Yep.
So, told June 3rd, 2017, before inauguration, and some of these texts and emails that he was shown are from some of the indicted, and it's Putin himself involved. And he responds to it, apparently begrudgingly. So, and this is 2 weeks before the inauguration. So anyway, the timing of all of this is quite interesting. It really does seem that the jig is up.
And he begrudgingly said, yeah, exactly, it's right here. Mr. Trump sounded grudgingly convinced, according to several people who attended the intelligence briefing. But ever since, Mr. Trump has tried to cloud the very clear findings that he received on January 6, 2017, which his own intelligence leaders have unanimously endorsed.
So then 2 days after that, he in response to Putin's suggestion that Russian intelligence get to discuss with U.S. justice officials and the former ambassador to Russia. So essentially extradite Mueller and former ambassador for Russian intelligence questioning, to which a vote is put in the Senate as to whether or not to allow Vladimir to question U.S. lawmen. And that's voted on 98-0. And then, of course, in the news, there's comment by McFaul, the former U.S. ambassador, who Putin didn't like.
Yeah, because he was always going against Putin.
So all of these things, when we think back to McCarthyism and, the entire Cold War. How does it go away overnight?
Oh, it's not going to. It's not going to go away overnight because it's easy. It's easy.
Well,
I mean, it's easy. It's easy as looking outside and seeing that the grass is brown
okay.
and level 1 drought.
All right.
Okay.
Then
There's
let me
always
ask you
been
this.
there's always been an undercurrent of fascism in the United States.
All right.
It's always been there.
Okay.
It's been
So let me
their
ask you
national interest.
Let me ask you this. When polled, GOP supporters post-Helsinki conference are 71 to 80% in favor of the president's press conference after the Helsinki meeting.
They're all a bunch of ass clowns. Okay? They're all a bunch of ass clowns. The whole game is rigged. This is why I told you I threw up my hands after 2006. I mean, the whole game is rigged. So, I mean, when it costs $1 billion a year to be elected, or sorry, $1 billion, pardon me, to be elected as president of the United States, the jig is up. I mean, there's no such thing really. I mean, there's democracy at a local level, but once you get beyond that, it's the rig. It's up. It's not in the best interest of the people. It's not in the best interest of the company. Sorry, the country. It's about the shareholders. But it comes to a point when you start people's behaviors start resembling an opioid addict. Constantly looking for higher returns. We need higher returns on those stocks. We need higher returns. Jesus, man. Okay, you sound like an alcoholic. You sound like an opioid addict. This is not going down well. This is not going to end well. It's going to blow up in our faces.
Former prosecutor Glenn Kirshner was on one of these cable news outlets, pointing out, if you're asking the question, why hasn't Trump testified?
He's a coward.
Why hasn't he been subpoenaed? He raised an interesting point. This guy's a former prosecutor. And if you think about it, I mean, in Congress and in some cases, we see pleading of the fifth, this protection against self-incrimination. Also in a lot of court cases, if you know your client is guilty, you wouldn't have him take the stand because as an officer of the court, you'd be supporting lying to the court. Yeah. So here's the thing. This prosecutor points out there's a policy amongst prosecutors not to subpoena a target. Because think about it, if you subpoenaed the target, then the whole pleading the fifth thing, because anything he says can and will be used against him, and that stating facts that are incorrect are a crime in itself. There's a policy. So if you're trying to figure out why in all this time Mueller has not subpoenaed the president, it's because he's a target. Now, if you get what that means, that means he's actually the person who will be charged. He isn't just a person of interest or whatever. He's the target of the investigation. I think that's very telling. I mean, because a lot of us felt, they know that it won't survive in the House, or that Mueller is really just a Republican anyway, or that nothing of any significant change is even possible, that for all these other reasons. But actually, there is this idea that he's not been subpoenaed because he's a target.
Find us on Twitter @ThatArcher, our podcast page, tmi.twxnet.com. Rate the show on iTunes. It changes the way the show is listed.
Russia has better gun laws. Abortion up to 12 weeks. and third-payer health care. Well, if you're arguing that Trump and Putin are on the same side, and if you argue that the reason why the NRA was interested in Russia, the excuse for that is that Russia wants to make its gun laws more strict. Or if you're looking at it in terms of who's better or worse, or now that we're ruled as by the Home Office at the Kremlin, will America get better or worse? Will we become more or less like Russia, or will Russia become more or less like us? It's interesting to note that Russia has better gun laws, legal abortion to 12 weeks, and third-payer health care. So who's got the better country?
Well, I guess it depends on what your value system is. If you value tough gun laws, then I guess Russia is. If you value the whatever the amendment
Abortion
is,
to 12 weeks.
Again, it's all based on value system, right? It's what the person's individual value. I mean, what I think doesn't
Free health care.
Same thing with healthcare. What
So
I think is
they've solved a lot of these questions. So if Trump is colluding with
so we
Putin,
here in Canada, I mean, we got a great educational system.
If Trump is colluding with Putin, is Russia really going to get third payer, or America going to get third payer health care, legal abortion, and better gun laws? The absurdity. Is Trump unstoppable or at the end of his rope?
Oh, I don't think we've seen. This is just no. I think he's just in the first act. I think this is going to get more interesting. This is going to this is no.
Okay.
Nope.
All right.
No. I totally see this.
Quick answers. No more of your 30,000 word answers.
Wait till November, baby. Wait till November. November will be the big reveal. He likes to do that with his reality shows. The big reveal is in November. I think what we'll see in November is Republicans taking the Senate and the House again, for sure. Yep.
All right, hang on. Yeah, you should write a book. Well, we should. Well, okay. So this is just stupid, but it's like The Lost Years by David Dennison.
Mm-hmm.
You get who David Dennison is?
Mm-hmm.
It's the name he used in the lawsuit.
Mm-hmm. The Lost Years. Go on.
That's it.
Your
It's
point?
just a book title, The Lost Years by David Dennison.
Oh. Well, I mean, The Lost Years. No. Yeah, sure. I guess you could paraphrase it like that.
Right. I mean, in a way, just the EPA alone. So whatever progress we were making in whatever direction we were heading has been not only stopped, but rolled back to like 1961 or whatever year it's become right now.
For the last 700 days, for sure.
And then even if it ended tomorrow, there'd still be all the work that has to be done to have a faster impeachment process, full disclosure on taxes, a minimum IQ test for president, whatever it may be. The things that you need to install, you can't have like an oil executive run or now a coal executive run the EPA.
Thank God he quit.
Yeah, well, he's replaced by a coal guy, so it's even better.
Oh, fuck. Go from the fire into an inferno.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, in a way, these are the lost years, where rather than progress politically towards campaign finance reform or acknowledging global warming or making decisions about subsidizing nuclear or Superfund sites or EPA cleanups or reforming the military or whatever it may be, it's a stop. It's a pedaling backwards, and you have to add on how long it would take to restore us just back to where we were when we started this. So in terms of progression, electing black presidents, maybe a woman, moving forward, we're back to Roe versus Wade. It's essentially 1961.
Well, and this is why I call the United States a fascist communist regime. It's schizophrenic, I know. But I mean, look,
edit it out.
No, don't edit it out,
Edit it
because
out,
Israel
my friend.
had the first, look, Queen Victoria, 19th century, okay, Mary Queen of Scots, Marie Antoinette, just those Western women, you know. Then there's Indira Gandhi in India, Prime Minister.
What's your point?
Indira Gandhi was, that was India, yes. Golda Meir in Israel, Margaret Thatcher, you know, Kim Campbell.
Yeah, big success.
There you go. All I'm saying is that it's a moot point. If the Americans, this is how delusional America is. If they think that we give a shit about them having a female president, then they need to take a look at their toilet bowl. Because I am sorry, it is
out.
No, don't edit it out. Because I'm tired of America playing world moral figure, moral police, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Leader of the free world?
Oh, they're not the leader of the free world. Because just because you spend $700 billion on your bloody military doesn't make you leader of the free world. They haven't been able to win a war since never.
Okay. The lost years, we covered that. Okay, so
17 years in Afghanistan, 17 years in Iraq, something like that.
So,
how many years were they in Vietnam? The only war that they ever won was invading Grenada and fucking Panama. Give me a goddamn break. This country is so delusional.
Yeah. In the last week, we went from the Helsinki conference.
Yeah. Conference. It's Putin saying, hey, I got 20 pages here, and of your last time in here when you were a businessman, of
and the abortions,
prostitutes pissing and shitting on you.
He doesn't
You're
care
my
about
puppet.
that. He wouldn't care about that. If he doesn't care about raw dogging and pussy grabbing and Stormy Daniels, he doesn't care about a piss tape. It's not a piss tape. I'm telling you, it's an abortion. Back towards the beginning of the Me Too movement, we had already heard about the former Playboy model. Let me find her name. McDougal. What's her first name?
Barbara McDougal. I don't know.
That's a former cabinet minister, isn't she?
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm sure she's going to appreciate hearing that one.
I'm sure she's listening. The entire conservative shadow government, I'm sure, doesn't miss an episode. But back at the beginning of the Me Too movement, we already knew about pussy grabbing, a McDougal, former Playboy model whose story was bought by the Inquirer. We'd already heard a lot of what we've already heard about Stormy Daniels, and we can just imagine the others. A lot of people were afraid because of the way stories were running off his back like water off a duck's back.
Exactly, Teflon Don.
His hair. We had already heard about all these scandals. And the fear was that despite the Me Too, that because these things had been mentioned and didn't go anywhere, largely, although since then, I mean, Michael Avenatti and Stormy Daniels have been leaders in a lot of what's been uncovered. I said, it's gone away for now, but trust me, in this new Me Too environment, it's just hiding for a little while. It's going to come back. And so, in this crazy week that we just had where we go from Helsinki, the final story at the end of the week was McDougal is back in the news.
Wag the dog, baby. Wag the dog.
It's nice to see that story didn't disappear.
Well, and I think this is what we can thank Steve Jobs for. The ubiquitous smartphone. And I think this is why, even though it was only in the news cycle for a couple of months after that shooting at that, again, upscale high school in Florida, I'm sure if it happened in the Bronx, it wouldn't have gotten that traction. or the poor part of the Bronx. But so it was, an upscale Florida high school down the road from Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago, and it gained traction. And
Yeah, for a week. On the weekend, on that Saturday, they took over U.S. television and they had a big rally.
yeah, exactly.
And Martin Luther King's granddaughter spoke, and it was wonderful. And we were all like, "Oh, see, the cell phones aren't killing us."
Yeah.
And bingo, crickets.
Well, no, but I mean, I think don't forget. I mean, this is the generation that doesn't use currency, hard currency. They just use their cell phones or whatever to pay for things now, or a nod. I think the new Apple one is, so I mean, it's all on social media, right? I mean, it's alive and well on social media. I mean,
we were trying to come up with names for Donald Trump. So Chubby Don, the Bronze Dong, a chaos agent. I've got one. Fondled Rump.
That works too. I think there's a plethora of descriptors that we can give Donald Trump.
Watching him operate is like watching somebody juggle loose stools on white shag.
Yeah, it works. I'm pretty sure Queen Elizabeth would feel the same way. I mean, there's no other president of the United States or visiting head of state that I know of, or that we know of, that has been late.
She stood in the sun,
Yeah.
looking at her watch for 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's protocol. I mean, like I said...
Wouldn't you be 5 minutes early?
I would make sure that I was 10 minutes early. I would, like everything that I did during the elections, I always made that we were 15 minutes early with my candidates, all the candidates that I've worked with in all the elections. I always built in a 15-minute buffer just to go over the notes, just to make sure that we were there. I always want to make sure that I'm the first there.
So Trump didn't want to stand there waiting for the Queen.
Yeah. No. It's just patently unacceptable. So, I mean, it's like the whole prosecutor thing that you were discussing before with Mueller. It just adds to a pattern of behavior.
Let me bounce this off you. If the Russians were helping Trump, thus the Trump and Russians are on the same team with the same goal. He leads the Republicans, and so in a way, the Republicans and Trump hacked the Democratic database. This is the same crime as Watergate, a break-in at the DNC.
There you go. That's what Americans will understand. As soon as you say that and you put it into context like that, then the smart ones will already understand what's going on. But the ones that are walking in a fog right now in a snowstorm or a dust storm, whatever, descriptor is appropriate, as soon as you say that, break in Watergate and put it into context for 2018, hopefully they'll understand.
Okay. So the specific element is the Republicans could target Democrats directly by use of a third party, and that was Cambridge Analytica. So if you don't want to believe that the Russians handed the data right to the Republicans, they used Cambridge Analytica as the middleman.
That and or WikiLeaks. Whoever was working for WikiLeaks or who supplied WikiLeaks with all that information. My dear friend, and for your information.
Okay, so Vladimir, Thank you for doing the show, by the way.
Not a problem, my friend.
Yeah, I have a few questions. Isn't it true?
Do you know Sacha Baron Cohen by any chance?
Yeah, I know of his work.
I want to be on his Un-American show. Or what makes an American? I think I'd be good for Sacha Baron Cohen's show.
What do you make of this suggestion? Does Russia want to be more like America, or does America want to be more like Russia? Because in Russia, there's better gun laws, abortion is legal to 12 weeks, and they have third-payer health care.
And we also have the Lada.
Yeah.
Very good car, and underappreciated in America. But I think Americans want to be more like Russia. We offer stability. We know what we want. We know how to get it. Americans like Russia. Yes, da. You're not satisfied with my how do you say in English response?
Yeah, I don't think you answered the question. Actually, you were asked a pretty straightforward question. I didn't hear you talk about healthcare. I didn't hear you talk about abortion. I didn't hear you talk about gun laws.
Well, when you make, there's no point in repeating what the parrot says. When the parrot gets all the points right, let's get to the chase. Next question.
I don't have another question. Do something.
Have you visited Sochi? We have lovely women in Sochi.
Really? How do Russians feel about LGBT2?
It's a good rock band.
Yeah. I think you guys didn't you arrest one of the Pussy Riot protesters the other day?
She's a little unbalanced, and we helped her out.
Yeah.
Do you need help, sir?
I do.
Send somebody from our embassy around to pick you up.
Jesus. That's good. That one was good. I'm going to edit that in.
Find us on Twitter @thatarcher. Send us an email, archer@twxnet.com. For guest links and contact info, visit our podcast page, tmi.twxnet.com. Find us on Android and Apple Podcast apps. Subscribe and rate the show on iTunes.
I'm Dave Archer in Toronto.
And I'm Ian Stolberg in Ottawa.